trafficking and how I survived being trafficked for 7 years. I was born to a teenage mother and thrown into a world whose sole foundation was dysfunction. As a child, physical and sexual abuse, domestic violence, alcoholism, and divorce dominated my world. I was adrift in a sea of chaos, a rudderless ship whose sails rose and fell at the whim of my mother's compulsions, and aversion to stability. My mother's marriage to my biological father ended abruptly in a divorce that rivaled the fury of the most horrific natural disaster and placed me in her custody. As time progressed, my mother's addiction to alcohol began to spiral out of control. She cycled through a series of increasingly abusive relationships over the next few years. At the age of 5, I was a forgotten child starved for affection. It was at that time my mother became involved with a man who would send my already fragile life into a darker abyss. Her new boyfriend gave me presents, took me to sporting events, and made me feel like I mattered. Before long, they were married, and I thought my fairy tale of a loving family might finally be coming true. Suddenly, the hugs I'd been receiving from mother's new husband turned into long embraces, and before long he began to molest me and use me for child pornography. He told me that if I said anything, no one would believe me, and threatened my mother's life if I did not keep my mouth shut. I became trapped in a web of psychological blackmail. One day he told me he was taking me to meet some people, and it was then I was introduced to the pedophile ring he belonged to. I was forced to take cocaine and drink vodka, and I was then beaten and raped by each of the members. For 7 long years, I was trapped in a hell no one deserves. I was nothing more than a shell of a human being, enduring suffering and torture at the hands of psychopaths and sociopaths as the world looked on. I attended school, and from the outside appeared to be a normal child. But I was being trafficked in plain sight. During the 7 years I was trafficked, and I tried to tell 10 people what was happening to me. The last 3 times resulted in a broken nose, having my favorite pet killed in front of me, and having 3 of my ribs broken. I was taught a lesson about keeping quiet that I never forgot. At the age of 12, I had lost all hope, and as I stood in my mother's rose garden, a bottle of sleeping pills in one hand and a bottle of vodka in the other, I drank the alcohol, and it carried the agents of my demise down my throat into my stomach. I felt a peace I had never felt before. I had finally escaped a nightmare, and I was no longer afraid. Suddenly, I awoke in the emergency room to a group of wide-eyed doctors who had witnessed me depart this world for a total of 3 minutes. God, it seems, had other plans for me, as I was placed under the supervision of the county and finally free of my nightmare. I sincerely believe that it's through God's intervention I am here today, and not only as a survivor, but as a living testament that there's always hope and a light inside all of us that no one can extinguish. The Department of Justice estimates that between 100,000 and 300,000 children are at risk of being trafficked in this country right now. Human trafficking is a $9.5 billion a year business in the U.S., according to the United Nations. And within the first 48 hours of leaving home, a runaway child will be approached by a human trafficker. Human trafficking is second only to the drug trade as the largest criminal enterprise in the United States. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children reports that pimps can make from $150,000 to $200,000 a year per child, and each pimp has an average of 4 children. The Polaris Project has documented that the average victim of sex trafficking is forced to have sex 20 to 48 times a day. Please join me in the fight to end human trafficking and save the next child before they are sentenced to a vandalized childhood with a lifetime of broken hopes and dreams. Learn the signs of human trafficking and call the Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-3737-888. If you suspect someone is being trafficked, to learn more about the signs of human trafficking, visit the Stop Modern Slavery website. Thank you, and God bless you for helping to rescue the lost and the forgotten, trapped by chains of fear, and lost in the prison of silence.
Thank you so much, Jerome. I just want to highlight how important it is, too, to have active survivors out there who are sharing their stories and spreading knowledge in communities about